All right, Cowboys Nation, I need you to stop what you're doing right now because there is a situation developing with the Dallas Cowboys that is not getting nearly enough attention. And trust me, when you hear what Adam Schefter just dropped about George Pickens, it's going to change how you feel about the Cowboys completely. We might see a major shift in the coming days. I'm going to explain everything in detail. And not only this, but there are also some names on this roster right now that are a lot less safe than you think. I'm talking about players who had roles in 2025, guys who were supposed to be part of the future, and now they're fighting just to stay on the team. You've got a young quarterback with a rocket arm who was once seen as the clear backup of the future, and now suddenly he's in a real battle just to hold on to that QB2 spot after the team brought in competition. You've got a former second-round pick at tight end who hasn't lived up to expectations and is already being passed on the depth chart. There's a defensive back who actually overperformed expectations but might still be the odd man out because of how crowded that room has become. And then there's a recent first-round offensive lineman, a guy who was supposed to lock down a key position for years, and now he's not even guaranteed to keep his job depending on how this draft falls. Let that sink in. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, if you see, the Cowboys have been way more aggressive this offseason, even moves that seem small, like bringing in veteran defensive lineman Jonathan Bullitt, send a clear message. The competition is back in Dallas. And when you combine that with the upcoming draft, you get one thing. Roster spots are about to disappear fast. Let's break down 4 players who could lose their jobs after the draft. First up, Joe Milton. This one is very interesting. Dallas traded for Joe Milton, hoping they had their long-term QB2 locked in. And yeah, we've seen flashes, big arm, elite physical tools, but let's be honest, the same issues that followed him in college, they're still there. Inconsistency, decision-making, and inaccuracy under pressure. And now the Cowboys bring in Sam Howell. That's not just depth, that's competition. Howell has real NFL starting experience, and if Milton doesn't take a step forward, he could lose that QB2 job. And here's the scary part. If Dallas drafts a quarterback late, Milton might not just lose his role, he could be out of a job completely. Next, Luke Schoonmaker. Let's just be real here. When Dallas drafted Luke Schoonmaker in the second round back in 2023, a lot of people were confused. And unfortunately, that feeling hasn't really changed. He hasn't developed into a difference maker. He hasn't stood out. And now he's buried on the depth chart behind Jake Ferguson, who has clearly taken over as TE1. But it gets worse. He's also being pushed by younger talents like Brevin Spanford. And if the Cowboys draft another tight end, that might be the final nail in the coffin. Because at this point, Dallas needs production, not potential that never turns into results. Now, the third player is Markquese Bell. This one hurts a little because Bell actually overachieved. Coming out of Florida A&M, nobody expected much, but he carved out a role, played hard, made plays, and earned respect. But the NFL is brutal, and right now the Cowboys are stacking the secondary under new defensive coordinator Christian Parker. Dallas is clearly rebuilding that unit. They've added multiple defensive backs. They've kept veterans like Malik Hooker. And if they draft another safety like Caleb Downs, that room gets very crowded. At some point, it's not about talent, it's about numbers, and Bell might be the odd man out. Finally, Tyler Guyton. Now this would be a shocker. He's a former first-round pick, and he's already on the hot seat. But let's be real, Tyler Guyton haven't lived up to expectations, not yet at least. And with Dak Prescott getting older, this offensive line becomes even more important. If Dallas is on the clock early in the draft and one of the top offensive tackles is sitting there, don't be surprised if they pull the trigger, because protecting Dak isn't optional, it's a priority. And if the Cowboys feel like they can upgrade that position, they might not hesitate. They could even flip Guyton for draft capital and start over. Sounds crazy? Maybe, but we've seen crazier things in the NFL. So here's the reality, Cowboys Nation. This team is changing. The front office is being aggressive, and the draft is going to shake this roster. The question is, are these the right moves to get Dallas back into contention, or are we about to see more instability? I want to hear from you. Which player do you think is most likely to lose their job? Cowboys Nation, now we've got a situation that might look quiet on the surface, but trust me, there is a lot happening behind the scenes. Because right now, one of the biggest questions surrounding the Dallas Cowboys is this: why hasn't George Pickens signed his franchise tag yet? I mean, think about it. This guy just had the best season of his career. 93 catches, 1,429 yards, 9 touchdowns, a Pro Bowl selection. He was central to everything Dallas did offensively in 2025. His chemistry with Dak Prescott was real, and the Cowboys responded by slapping the non-exclusive franchise tag on him worth $27.3 million, and he still hasn't signed it. That's the detail everybody needs to be paying attention to right now. And here's where it gets serious, because Adam Schefter went on NFL Live and laid it out plain and simple. Pickens is not allowed in the Cowboys facility until he signs that tag, and he's not signing that tag anytime soon, which means unless something changes, we are not going to see George Pickens during the entire offseason program. Let that sink in. Now, head coach Brian Schottenheimer has confirmed he's been in contact with Pickens, but he wouldn't commit to whether Pickens would even show up for voluntary workouts this spring. And COO Stephen Jones is staying patient publicly, acknowledging the team wants a long-term deal, but not saying much else while talks are ongoing. That's a whole lot of careful words and not a whole lot of answers. So where does this all lead? Just like Schefter said, this likely comes down to the mid-July deadline. Either Dallas and Pickens get a long-term deal done before then, or he plays out the tag year and we're having this exact same conversation again in 2027. And Cowboys Nation, that's not a comfortable place to be when you're talking about one of the most explosive receivers in the NFC. Because here's the reality. The franchise tag keeps Pickens in a Cowboys uniform for 2026 on paper, but whether he's actually in the building before training camp, that's a completely different question. And right now, nobody in Dallas seems to have a clean answer. So I want to hear from you, Cowboys Nation. Do you think Dallas gets this deal done before July, or are we heading into another season of uncertainty with one of our best weapons? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. I'm reading everything.